Right, hello, first of all.
Hello, first of all. That's a good start.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, disappointment, really.
Yeah.
You know, I've been voting Liberal Democrat for the last couple of elections where I live in West Dorset. The Labour Party vote is like below 10%. The only party that has any hope of defeating the Tories are the Liberal Democrats, and as that's my main aim in the election, is to stop the Tories winning the election. I've been voting tactically for the Lib Dems. Tactical voting is when you vote for a party that you don't support in order to stop a third party that you really want to stop. So my tactical vote didn't work out. The Tories still got elected anyway, but obviously, you know, having spoken about it and said about that, you know, I'm very, very disappointed with the way the coalition has turned out. And, you know, people have said to me, you know, 1 minute you're saying to us vote the Liberal Democrat, next minute you're saying support the students. Well, actually, I was doing both of those for the same reason, to stop the Tories. Yeah. You know, it's not my fault that the Liberal Democrats have turned turtle on us and joined the enemy. So yeah, a lot of disappointment, but I'm not cynical about it. You know, it happens in politics. If you're going to say things, if you expect to be in the papers, occasionally things are going to boomerang back and clout you on the back of the head. What you've got to do is pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and carry on. It'd be, you know, there's no point in me saying, well, take my ball away and I'm not interested in politics anymore. Yeah. After 25 years, you can just add that to the other list of stupid things I've said that have come back to haunt me.
Okay.
I've been very supportive, you know. I think the situation with regards the cuts is going to affect everybody, and it's great that the students have taken the initiative themselves rather than waiting for someone to organise something for them. You know, I think that's a very, very positive thing. Okay. And you know, each generation has to work out how to deal with these problems. Some generations don't. You know, the generation between you and me decided instead of doing this, they would go shopping. Yeah. And look where that ended up. You know, so it's good. It's also woken up a lot of people like me who'd kind of given up. Not me, but you know, some people had kind of decided that it was never going to happen, and they're kind of given in to their own cynicism. You know, I'm fortunate in that I get to stand in the dark with 600 people 3 nights a week, and it makes me feel like I'm not the only person in the world who gives a shit about this stuff. Okay. So yeah, I'm very, very encouraged by the activism of the students. I'm very disappointed in he's carried on with the tax cut that was put in by George W. Bush. I was hoping that he'd understand that he needed to send a clear message to rich people in America that they've caused this problem. The banks have caused this problem, and they have some, you know, having been complicit in it, they have some responsibility for the clean-up, but he seems not to have done that. So I have a lot of American friends, including the support band tonight, who are from Kentucky, Ben Soleil and Daniel Martin Moore, and you know, there's a lot of disappointment around that, I'm afraid. But again, you know, these things are, you have to battle through these disappointments to keep on pushing, because you know, sooner or later the other lot will be back in there, and you'll feel really really sorry if you haven't done everything you can. So you know, what's different now is that with Obama in the White House, all of us, including us in England, because of the nature of the American presidency, we live in a world of possibilities that we didn't live in before when George W. Bush was president. And as long as he's there, those possibilities will remain in play. So it's kind of down to people to push as hard as they can to make sure that those possibilities are realised. Well, I was kind of like writing sort of songs a bit like Frank. Before Margaret Thatcher turned up. When she turned up and she stood in the way of my dreams, where I wanted to go, it made me want to write songs about my anger about that. So I would expect that as this generation realises that it's not going to be plain sailing, and that there are people out there who don't believe that people should have a decent education by right, I'm hoping that your generation will focus their anger. It is very different. You've got to understand, when I first started writing political songs, there was still a very strong spirit
Yeah.
around left-wing ideas, and particularly for music. You know, we're only 10, 15 years after 1968. So what happened was the generation who were kids in 1968 were now controlling the rock media. They were in the radio stations, they were editing the NME and all those other papers. So if you had something to say, they would give you a platform. Now it's more difficult than that. You know, Johnny Marr tweeted last week that David Cameron, he forbade David Cameron to like the Smiths. New Musical Express sided with David Cameron, said you can't say that. Morrissey had to crawl out of his hole and side with Johnny Marr, you know, because Marr is right. You know, a Conservative Prime Minister. You know, Margaret Thatcher was a Conservative Prime Minister. You can't like the Smiths. The Smiths were against the Tories. So, you know, why is the enemy siding with Cameron and not siding with the Smiths? See, it's harder for bands. So I have a lot of faith in young bands to be able to do that, and I try to be as supportive as I can. I had both Beans on Toast and Frank Turner played at Glastonbury Left Field last year.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool.
Voting reform is a no-brainer, really. You know, but at the moment, under first past the post, many people like me live in what are called safe seats, which means that one party always wins. 80% of seats are so-called safe seats, which means that, you know, 40% of the people in this country, in fact probably more, probably 60% of the people in this country are disenfranchised because their votes don't count anymore. And that's allowed the main parties to focus just on those 20% of seats that do swing and can win or lose an election. I want everybody's vote to count. So moving towards a more proportional system, although AV isn't proportional, it's a step in that direction. No one who's ever gone to AV has gone back to first past the post. All those people who've gone to AV have eventually realised that's not quite the thing, and they're going forward now to PR. So that's a, you know, that's a very, very, very important step.
Okay.
The Featured Artists Coalition. There are decisions being made about copyright law that affect artists but don't actually involve us. Discussions between multinational corporations and governments about the art that we create. And one of the things that the record industry wants is a law that arrests and criminalises our fans. I'm against putting my fans in prison. I want to encourage my fans to enjoy my music. So I'm cool if people are, you know, if you've got a Billy Bragg song and you're saying to him, you know, check out this old geezer, he's a bit political, and you send it to him, I'm cool with that. If you're selling Billy Bragg records and keeping the money, I want to come down on your arse like a ton of bricks, because you're robbing me there. But if you're sharing music with him, you're doing what Radio 1 used to do for me. You're spreading the word. So I'm cool with that.
Okay, good. The Cage Against the Machine was...
The Cage Against the Machine, that's an attempt to stop the X Factor from getting a Christmas #1 again. We think that monopoly capitalism is a bad thing. Nobody should have a monopoly on Christmas #1. And Simon Cowell does seem to have that, so we're trying to bust that monopoly by recording a piece of music that John Cage wrote, which is 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence. And Cage wrote that as a protest against the inane jingles that he was hearing on the radio and on TV in America in the 50s. Well, we're using it as a protest against the inane shit we're listening to on X Factor, and we're hoping to get this silence to #1, as Rage Against the Machine got to #1 last year. And it's not just the charts either. I mean, it's the newspapers are just as bad. You know. On the day that Ireland agreed to be bailed out, the next morning's newspapers, 3 of the tabloid papers, had gossip from the X Factor on about Wagner. So, you know, X Factor allows newspapers to print showbiz tittle-tattle as news. I'm against that. I want people to have the right information. So it's not just about the Christmas #1, it's about getting those fuckers out of my industry. What music am I listening to tomorrow? I've just got an Etta James chess box from Chess Records I've been listening to. The new Arcade Fire record. That Rumour record I really like. Have you heard that? That woman songwriter? Sounds a bit like like the Carpenters. I'm kind of working on that, and that Springsteen album, The Promise. Been listening to that.
Okay. Right.
I was influenced to write songs by Henry Ford, a car maker. He had a big factory at Dagenham, and that's what I was educated to do. And I had to work out a plan whereby I could escape from working in the car factory and writing songs, as I couldn't box and I couldn't play football and I wasn't pretty. Writing songs seemed to be the best way to do that. So I listened a lot to Bob Dylan. I listened a lot to Smokey Robinson, The Miracles. I listened a lot to The Clash. About 3 years ago, I wrote a book called The Progressive Patriot, and a playwright called Mick Gordon got in touch with me and said he wanted to write a play based around the ideas in this book. And sort of working together, we constructed this play. I wrote the songs. I wrote half a dozen songs, and he wrote a play about a family living in a white working class family who are living in a town, and the father is thinking of standing for the BNP, or I've never mentioned by name, but for a far right party for the council elections, and it's the conflicts within that family. And so that's what I was doing during the election. Actually, it's very weird. During the day, I was out in Barking and Dagenham fighting the BNP, but in the evenings I was in this play playing these songs about it. It was very strange where the line was. They kind of choose you. I mean, the Florence thing, which I think is absolutely brilliant. About this time last year, someone robbed a bank. You know, he got in touch and said, "Would you like to come on and sing a Christmas song with Florence?" I said, "Yeah. What did you want to sing?" And they come back and said, "Fairy Tale New York." So I said, "Yeah, why not?" So you know, if there's a chance to it, I'll do it. I'm always up for playing with other people. Well, I do, yeah. I've just released the songs from Pressure Drop on a CD, which hopefully we'll have some available tonight, but due to the difficulties in getting everything delivered, the CDs went to Scotland and we come here, so they're about a day behind us at the moment, so we're a bit low. We might have some. And then in the new year, in March, I'm going to Los Angeles to record an album with Johnny Cash's daughter Roseanne, and a great American songwriter called Joe Henry, doing the three of us doing an album together. Thank you, Livewire TV. She's Livewire or Spankwire?